Edward, you're free to start.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm calling the Rehoboth Beach Environment Committee meeting for January 7th, 2022 to order at 10:30 a.m. I'm going to do a roll call. Charlie Garlow.
Charlie Garlow here.
Heather Metz.
Here, good morning.
Morning. Eric Seward. I see Eric is here. Joseph Vesio
I'm here.
is here. Mary Peck. Mary's here. Nettie Green. And Monique Buckles is not with us today. Did I miss anyone?
Catherine Bergwin, our secretary, is not available, but Joseph Vescio said he would be taking minutes today, Edward.
Thank you, Charlie.
Good.
Thank you, Joe.
Is everyone able to hear me okay? My screen seems to be freezing up a little bit. You guys hear me fine?
We can hear you.
Okay. We have two sets of minutes that I think Catherine sent out for the meetings held on September 3rd and December 3rd of 2021. Does anyone have any comments or want to review those minutes? Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second? If anyone's speaking, you're on mute.
Second.
Eric, am I on now, Charlie? Just trying to figure out if I got I think I see my picture, and are people hearing me now?
Yep,
Yes.
we've got you.
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
I went to my work computer or something. So, all right, thanks. Sorry about that, guys.
Thank you. Nettie, I'm just going to ask that we get another member to second.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Heather. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Correspondence, to my knowledge, we've not received any public correspondence. So first on the agenda under old business is the update on the table place card, the tabletop place cards for businesses. We discussed an update on this last time, and I think there were a few follow-up areas on making sure that we're getting the word out to businesses and utilizing the city and Main Street and the chamber to help with that. Nettie, I think you were taking some of the lead on this. Do you want to give us an update?
Did everyone receive my letter? I'm sorry that it was listed as blank 2. I didn't know how to rename it. So that's what I would like. I could make a motion to that effect, but I would like for for the commissioners to send that letter to all businesses and all restaurants and bars. It's been approved by the Chamber of Commerce and been approved by our committee, and I move that be sent from the commissioners.
Nettie, I'm just trying to pull that up so we can, I can maybe pull that up for everyone to see.
Okay,
Did
thank,
anyone not receive that letter that Nettie drafted and sent out?
I received her letter.
Okay. Essentially, it's a letter as if written by the mayor and commissioners, just asking businesses to participate in the program is the short of it. So we've got a motion on the floor to send that letter off to the mayor and commissioners and ask them to send it out to the businesses in Rehoboth, encouraging them to participate in the program. Is there a second?
Can I ask a question first?
Yeah, please.
I don't have it pulled up. When is this, Nettie, is this the original motion that our committee passed with the language that says requested, not required? I don't have it pulled up right now. Do you want to maybe read it just for clarification? I don't think it was that long.
sure, let me pull it up. I'm sorry, I have to, okay. Okay, I will read it. And I actually made one word correction. Dear blank blank, restaurants, businesses, restaurants and bars. We, the Rehoboth Beach Commissioners, along with the Rehoboth Beach Chamber of Commerce, urge you to immediately implement a plastic straw ban. Straws only upon request. We are requesting your cooperation in an effort to reduce marine pollution, to reduce the use of disposable plastics, and the use of fossil fuels used in their manufacture. Being a major resort town on the Atlantic Ocean, such a step is not only necessary for ensuring environmental health, but also an inspiration and motivation for other coastal towns. Other municipalities who have banned plastic straws, except upon request, are Seattle, Miami, Malibu, New York City, San Francisco, Portland, Fort Myers. 10 states, not including Delaware, have various types of bans on plastic straws. Major companies, Starbucks, McDonald's, Marriott, have followed suit. We care deeply about our Rehoboth Beach natural environment. To reword a poster, and that's, I changed the wording at that point, to reword a poster that said several years ago, speaking of Delaware, we say Rehoboth Beaches, good nature depends upon you. Thank you for your efforts to make our town a beautiful and healthy place for all. Sincerely yours, the Rehoboth Beach City Council. And then I gave the references, which were basically Googled online references for those states and cities.
And I also pulled that up. Is everyone able to see that?
I am, yes.
I am.
Yes.
Any additional questions or comments?
I noticed it talks about the city council, probably should say city commissioners.
Yep.
Big deal.
Mhm.
We'll make that minor change. Do we have a second then?
Second,
Carly? Okay. All in favor? If you could just put your hand up as well. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And it is approved. Nettie, was there any additional outreach to getting some social media hits with the chamber or Main Street, anything like that?
No, that actually was not my assignment, but I could
I
do that.
that might have been Stuart.
I think it was Stuart. Mhm.
Any other further discussion on this topic?
I really would like to reword just that last sentence in the big paragraph to just to reword a Delaware poster, not, because it was Delaware's good nature depends on you. So it's to reword this poster. That's just a correction I would make.
Okay, I don't think anyone has any objection. And
Yeah, okay.
go ahead, Joe.
I just have one
I'm sorry.
comment. I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Nettie, I just have a question. Was it Portland, Oregon or Portland, Maine? That one of the cities? I don't know if you need to clarify that or not.
Yeah, I thought of putting that in, and then what I Googled didn't really say. I imagine it's Portland, Oregon, but I don't know. So we could just leave out Portland.
Yeah, I think if we don't know which one, we should probably leave it out,
Yeah, let's just,
in my opinion.
they're enough there.
So I don't know, but I understand that there's a restaurant commissioners meeting, that's attended by a lot of some of the big restaurants, whether it's Sodal or Grotto's or the Big Fish Grill, right? Do they get together on a monthly basis? I just wonder if this letter could be reinforced at that meeting where you've got them right face to face. I mean, you know how mail comes through, they're going to look at that. Whoever opens it's going to look at it and say, hey, but I just wonder if there should be a follow-up to that, because I think it's a great idea. Do we reinforce it at one of their restaurant meetings?
I'd be glad to go and talk to them. But it would have to come from the commissioners, of course, first.
Yes, I agree. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that's I don't like to assign jobs, but is that something that someone, a commissioner would go, and it would have more teeth, I would think, not that this wouldn't, people do
Yeah,
what they
no,
want, but
the whole thing is just handing out those placards.
right.
Talk about no teeth. And it was just kind of ridiculous when we went to places like Five Guys and places like, chains. Okay,
Yes.
but part of a larger chain. But if this came from the commissioners, then it would say, this is what we're doing in Rehoboth. And like you see, other corporations have done that, and other cities have done that. And I'm sure that they had Five Guys and they had Subway, and, they had some major corporations that had restaurants there. So, I'd be glad to go to the restaurant meeting. I think it needs to come from the commissioners first, though.
Agreed. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think one thing that's important though is, when I will present this letter to the commissioners, and they may want to change it. They might want to tweak the language.
Sure.
But I mean, we have already given the blessing of the program, I think last year when you guys came before the mayor and commissioners. So I think that's important to reiterate. I think when you're speaking to people, this letter may certainly help, but the program has only gotten this far because it did have the blessing and support of the city and the mayor and commissioner. So I think that's something not to lose sight of. All right, any further discussion on this topic? All right, then, Charlie, next up is the continued discussion on the action plan and possible recommendations to the Board of Commissioners. I'm going to pull up your document, Charlie, and then let you take it away.
I think most everybody has received a copy of this document in advance, but it's good to have it there on your screen. Very good. Thank you. Chairman Chersnowski, this has been a long time coming. We've had, well, I won't have a discussion first. Let me make a motion and then we'll have discussion later. I move that this committee, after appropriate second and discussion, vote whether to send this draft action plan, climate action plan, forward to the elected commissioner and mayors for their approval and implementation.
Do we have a second? Anyone?
A second.
Eric, were you also going second? Nettie, just because Eric's a voting member, I'm gonna take
Okay.
this second.
Sure.
All right. So Charlie, let's dive into discussion then.
Very good. Just briefly, I'm glad to hear the discussion and topics, thoughts of others, but just briefly, this draft is relatively short. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, obviously, but it envisions having a series of town hall meetings to get input from the public on what the plan should really be. So this is sort of a planning to get a plan proposal, and the outcome of those hearings, those town hall meetings, we would have some more of the particulars that would go into a plan, such as whether or not we're going to have net zero carbon dioxide emissions by 2050 or some other numbers, whether we're going to ban idling of cars in the city or other sorts of specific provisions like that. That's not in here, but hopefully coming out of the process, we would be able to have some answers along those lines as to what the actual requirements are of the plan. It could involve a lot of voluntary or educational parts of the plan. It doesn't have to all be mandatory. So that is the basic proposal that went forward in the city of Newark, Delaware. We had a couple, as you may recall, those of you who are new members don't recall, but it was a year ago, I think, we had officials from Newark, Delaware, where they have a climate action plan, spoke to us about what they did and their recommendations. And basically I'm following in their footsteps with the vision statement and the inspiration statement, which they recommended. The rest of the format is a topic format, identify the evaluation criteria, and all those sorts of things are what Commissioner Dick Byrne had suggested was the way that the present mayor and commissioners like to see proposals come to them. So I hope it's in the right format and that it has sufficient detail, but not so much that it burdens people with having to read it. I'll stop there and ask if others have comments or thoughts or discussion.
Any questions, comments?
Charlie, can you just clarify? So I think this is pretty similar to what you had written previously, right? Are there a lot of changes or it's pretty much the same?
Right.
Pretty same. So is then what we're discussing is taking this plan and putting it forward to public input or meetings with the public for their input based on this plan? Is that where we're going? I wasn't quite sure.
My proposal is to submit this to the commissioners and the mayor for their approval and implementation, which would, if they approve it, mean having these town hall meetings as they see fit to get the public's input, and then out of that, develop more particulars.
So then so we have the plan, we go to the public, we include their comments and concerns, and then the commissioners develop a plan based on that, and that's what gets put forward.
Well, I was thinking that this proposal you see here, just a few pages worth of text, is something we should send forward to the commissioners and mayor to see if they approve us beginning that process of holding the hearings, and out of the hearings, developing a more detailed plan.
Okay.
So today's motion is only to send forward what you see in front of you to the mayors and commissioners to see if they approve us beginning the process. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. That clarifies. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Nettie, are you trying to speak?
There we go. This, just reading some of the 188 pages that you sent us, Edward, it seems like this fits in very much with the commissioner's hopes for our city having to do with environment. So I think it's just an implementation, asking the public, because to me, it really fits in with what I have read, what little I have read of the CDP, is that what it's called? Yeah, the comprehensive development plan. Anyway, just a comment.
Yeah, agreed. And this comes at a good time where that is happening as well. The city's comprehensive development plan, Nettie. Mary.
Is Mary having technical difficulties getting on?
She wants to speak, but I think she might be on mute.
She's not muting.
While we're waiting for her to come on, I would just recommend for other people to look at the Delaware State Climate Action Plan, which has recently been promulgated or issued, printed. It's also online. Many of the thoughts and aspirations that are in the state climate action plan echo what you see here before you, which is.
Charlie, is this this data link here, is that an electronic version of that plan?
That is a summary of all sorts of plans from around the Delaware cities and around the nation, other states.
Okay.
That may or may not be this. I don't think that is the same as what I just held up, the Delaware Climate Action Plan, but I would be glad to put that in the chat to give a link directly to the plan. Does that seem like something that might be of help?
Not necessary now, but Mary, are you still trying to speak? Are you off mute? Or I think one of the IT guys said you're not muted. So if you want to try speaking. Yep, we can't hear you though. Okay, we'll come back to you.
She should call in.
They suggested you should call into the meeting, Mary, if the computer audio is not working.
Can you give her that number to call in?
It's on the audio settings if she looks at it in the meeting invite.
If you hit the audio setting in the meeting, it'll give you the number. Any other questions about while we're waiting for Mary to get on with that? Any other questions or comments? All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see everyone. It looks like Mary is connecting to the audio, so just wait 1 second so we can get her to make her comment and vote with us.
For those, while we're waiting, for those who might want to see the Delaware Climate Action Plan, it's online. I see it's called documents.denrec.delaware.gov.
Mary, are you with us now? I think we lost her again. Well, since we lost Mary again, I think we'll just go ahead and bring this to a vote. And if she's got some comments afterwards, we can address them. Oh,
Edward, I have her home phone number. I could try dialing her telephone number and see if we could patch her in that way.
It looks like she's back on again, and she's off mute.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now, Mary.
Okay. All right. I just signed out and signed back in. So
Some comments on the proposal for the climate action plan?
yes, one of the comments that I had and was that in the state climate action plan, they have a lot of discussion about municipalities and municipal planning, but yet the state has not taken the next step as to what kind of funding is going to be available for municipal planning and so forth. And so one of the things that I was thinking of was that if the mayor and commissioners had some kind of resolution or request or statement that they want the state to support Rehoboth Beach and other municipalities to do climate action plans, because I think right now the state's in a phase of trying to get feedback and move forward with this plan. And if they know that we want to do a plan, that might help us. So that was my thought.
Great. Thanks for that, Mary. Any other comments on this agenda topic?
Edward, may I ask, is Mary's comments, is that sounds like a friendly amendment to the proposal? Would we could add language in there saying that we urge the mayor and commissioners to ask the state exactly what Mary just said? You want to phrase it in a few words, Mary?
I think we would ask the mayor and commissioners to state that, I think I want to take a look at the state plan and get it exact, if that's okay, but refer to sections of the plan and say, we urge the state to start a fund for municipalities to do climate change planning. And because it's definitely something that's stated in the plan, that like in a general sense that it would be a good idea for municipalities to do more planning. But as the whole plan itself just kind of states a lot of thoughts about what might be a good idea, but now the state hasn't said to what extent they're going to put money behind any of it, and where the funds are coming from. So I think the more public input they have that certain things are wanted or needed is the better.
Mary, could I add that on page III of the Delaware Climate Action Plan, it's the first page of the message from Governor Carney. He says down at the bottom of that, he'll be working directly with state agencies and others, businesses, nonprofit agencies, local governments, that's us, and residents to help us achieve our climate goals. So we could reference that if you wanted to.
Yeah, that would be good.
Or maybe find another piece of language from the Delaware Climate Action Plan.
Yeah, okay.
I would accept that as friendly amendment,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Noted. Who seconded? I believe that was you, Eric. Did you
Yes.
accept that friendly amendment?
Yes.
And Charlie and Mary, either one of you can answer this. Is this talking about funding aspects from the state? Is this on the implementation stage of climate action planning, or is this on the very beginning planning stages of putting an action plan in place?
It could be on the very beginning. I know when Newark did their plan, they actually got $80,000 grant from the state of Delaware, which enabled them to hire a consultant to actually do a lot of the work for them in terms of gathering information and setting greenhouse gas emission goals and things that might be costly to do or require more expertise than we have in-house. And so I talked to people at DNREC a while back, and they said with this new climate plan, there may be potential for more municipal grants of that nature, but they haven't announced any at this point. But if I think that if municipalities started to push for it, that would definitely be helpful to move it forward with the state to set up a new funding source for these kind of plans.
Could I add that under my proposal called Identify Evaluation Criteria, about halfway down, there's a second bullet called Cost to Implement, in which it talks about the DNREC grant to cover the costs of planning, which I think Mary was just referring to. That money may not be there right now, but we hope that it is. Perhaps we could change that language to say, should cover the DNREC grants or other funding sources should cover the costs of planning. That could be additional authorizations from the state, but it certainly goes along with Mary's idea that we, the city of Rehoboth, should be urging the state to support cities like us in developing these plans. Is that the thrust of your thought, Mary?
Yes, yeah, I think so. I think that now is a good time to let it be known with the state that municipalities are interested and want to do this kind of planning.
Excellent. Any other comments? Charlie, I'm going to ask that you massage that language and send it to me so I can then send it off to the mayor and commissioners. If we vote on it, with that said, let's go ahead and take a vote on sending this proposal for the city of Rehoboth to initiate planning a climate action plan with holding public meetings and various other items, and able to do so. I'll do a group vote. All in favor, if you could just put your hand up as well. Aye. And it looks like that passes unanimously.
Thank you all. Namaste.
Thank you, Charlie, for putting this together. And next on the agenda, discuss a plan of action to discuss the offshore wind farms and hear from all stakeholders and groups with varying perspectives. So we spoke about this a little bit last time. We've had some other municipalities ask the city of Rehoboth to join in having an opinion on whether to endorse such projects like this or not. I think more recently we've had some news in Delaware come out about it. So my goal here today is to identify and plan how do we move forward with this. What groups do we need to hear from? What information do we need to receive to be able to evaluate this, so we can recommend to the mayor and commissioners whether the offshore wind farms is something that the city of Rehoboth Beach should endorse or not. And you know, not hearing from just one group of people, but all groups of people with varying perspectives on the issue. So you guys are the experts in this. So what I wanted to do is just put together an outline of how we go about discussing this and hearing from people, and how what process should we go to so that we feel comfortable making a recommendation to the mayor and commissioners. So I know a few groups would love to make proposals to us. The city of the city of Ocean City, the city of Fenwick. There's some other organizations in Delaware I know So I just was looking to identify those groups so we know who to reach out to hear from.
You may wish to consider the city of Lewis. Mayor Ted Becker is very knowledgeable on this topic, having visited wind farms in Europe and Rhode Island and other places.
Excellent. Are they, Charlie, are there environmental groups that are involved in this in Delaware that we need to hear from?
Yes, there's a group called POWER, P-O-W-E-R, People for Offshore Wind Energy Resources. Love that acronym. That is a coalition effort of the League of Women Voters, the Sierra Club, the Citizens Climate Lobby, the Interfaith Power and Light folks, a number of different organizations, nonprofit environmental organizations operate under the umbrella of that POWER organization, coalition.
Great.
Ed, I guess one question I have in terms of where you're going with this, are we just trying to, is the city just trying to make a general position on wind power, or are we trying to decide how we feel about a particular project? Because I think sometimes if, you know, it's one thing to say we support wind power in general, and we want to get, whether we want to get bogged down with what that's all about and whether it's good or bad, or whether we want to evaluate the particular companies and projects that are currently being proposed, which would be a whole other level, because just because we generally support wind power doesn't mean that we support exactly in the concept that one particular industry is proposing. And so I know there's been a few, that Ørsted in particular has some things that are actually in the pipeline, and whether we're diving down into that level, or whether you just want to have a generalized discussion. So
I think I think the objective here is diving not too deep, but a little bit deep into what's in the pipeline and weighing the pros and cons of. I think we can all agree wind power is probably good, right? Any renewable energy is. But weighing that pro against the cons of it being off our shoreline, in our view shed, whatever specifics are in the current pipeline. I think that's the level that we're looking at, if that makes sense.
yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think that we have to be careful as basically a party that doesn't really have a lot of control over the projects, not to get too aligned with any particular company like Ørsted, or, you know, I mean, it's not our role to help Ørsted get approvals, but at the same time, I think it's a good role for us to have education and have our citizens understand what's coming and hear what they think and so forth. But you know, I don't know that. I think we have to be cognizant of exactly what our role could or should be.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see us being company specific, more a little bit more general than that in the geographical location of where projects might happen, some of the details of how far out, etc. Go ahead, Nettie.
There is a group, and I can't remember, but they're very adamant against wind power, and they send mailings. I don't know if you've gotten any of these mailings personally. And the Cape what is it called, Strawn? It's it's called Caesar Rodney or something, and they send out mailings opposing this, and they evidently are very well funded. They're also, the Cape Gazette had a poll, as if, you know, we can do it by vote, and, you know, who is for wind power, who's against wind power, who doesn't know, you know, kind of thing. So, I mean, we're dealing with a very kind of divisive issue, I'm afraid.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, so the way I'm hearing you, Edward, we're at more of the information seeking stage at this point, right?
Yeah,
we want to hear from everybody and then present that information to the public, and then we'll take it from there, right?
That's correct. I just want to make sure that we've got a process in place to make sure that we're well informed, and we are identifying who we need to hear from, so that we have a well-rounded knowledge and perspective on it. Another group that I know would like to speak to us is US Wind, and they have a local representative in Southern Delaware. So I've added them to the list as well.
Yeah, their spokesperson is Mike Dunmeyer, former city commissioner in Dewey Beach, well known around here. Yeah, we've been requested to think about this or take a position or something. We don't necessarily have to take a position at the end of hearing from other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if this body has an opinion, it doesn't mean that our recommendation to the mayor and commissioners will. And I'm sure there will be a lot of public comment on this particular topic. Any other thoughts on this? Heather, yeah, guys, you can just, I think we're a small enough group, just go ahead and speak.
Okay. I just want to add that I think gathering information, bringing in groups to speak, I think there's a lot of learning that we can all do about this issue. But I would caution everybody in the amount of research I've done so far, and I'm certainly no expert. There seems to be a lot of politics in play, one side versus the other, which from a technical perspective is a little bit alarming. So when I did research, I tried to limit it to like Engineering News Record or more technical sources. But in the end, I think one of the things that needs to happen is that Ørsted, who, if we're talking about a specific project, I think we should talk about the specific project, not just about wind in general. They need to be more forthcoming. When you look at their website, you see a lot of PR type stuff. You see a lot of words like huge opportunity. And to me, the website needs to give us, the people, more information, more specific information about what's going on. You know, we're all grown-ups. We can all take the good with the bad and look at the numbers and make determinations. I think that some of the burden lies with them in improving their ability to communicate with us honestly about the pros and cons. And I'd like to see, in whatever way we go forward, is some request to them to be more forthcoming, especially about how rates will be affected, plans for the future, plans for backup systems to the wind, how that's going to affect costs. There are a number of projects that we can look at. There's the Rhode Island project. There is the project in Virginia Beach that's giving us some good feedback about what the challenges are. And I don't see those challenges reflected at all in the information that Ørsted is putting forth to us. So, you know, I have a lot more I'd like to say about this. I don't want to bore you guys with all the stuff. But I think there is a burden here on Ørsted that we should request from them some more forthcoming information.
Could they meet with us for the February meeting or meet with the commissioners? Could we ask a representative from Ørsted to be at the meeting?
And he could answer those very questions that you have, Heather. I mean, we're blessed to have you as an engineer to help guide us to ask smart questions.
And Charlie, I appreciate all the information that you've provided, and it just brings up more questions and more questions. And some of the stuff gets pretty technical, and I don't know if everybody's really interested in all of that. But again, I get the feeling from Ørsted that they're trying to, sugarcoat all this. And yes, wind power is great. It's the future. We all want this project to be successful. But for any project to be successful, there has to be transparency. We have to know what the challenges are. They can't just say, oh, we're going to, one of the overarching things, and we talked about this, that you find is they say, well, when these forms of renewable energy aren't available, if it's snowing, if it's not windy, all those types of technicalities, we need to have backup plans. Well, it looks like Virginia and Delaware, all their backup plans are to buy energy from other states. When their form of energy production goes down, well, that's not a viable plan, right? So these are just the types of things that I would like to see addressed by Ørsted. They're technical questions that I think they just kind of glaze over. And it would be great to have somebody from Ørsted come, but I think on the other side that you also need to have somebody who's checking the information that they're providing, because they have a vested interest in making this project go forward. They're not going to necessarily tell you what their challenges are up front. And we've seen in Virginia that their costs in 1 year increased 25%. We've also seen in Virginia that as the engineering documents got approved, the Dominion Power was able to make those documents suppressed and not available to the public. So these are just things that we need to explore. We need more information. We need transparency. We need Ørsted to get rid of the PR people and get some people in there that can answer our questions.
I agree with you, Heather. I feel like, okay, Nettie mentioned this group that we all know about and that opposes it and the funding they've done, but also Ørsted, they're just as well funded as the other group, and they just recently gave a huge donation to the Center for Inland Bays, and they have lobbyists, they have somebody on the board that's going to meetings at the Delaware Nature Society. They are really trying to do trying to line up all the environmental groups to support them, and environmentalists in general would support wind power, but at the same time, I think Ørsted, people should know exactly the parameters of what they're doing and whether they're citing them in the best places or could they be further out. And also the other thing that has bothered me about this unfolding here in our community is that people aren't respectful of people's concerns. And if people have concerns about the viewscape, I don't think it should be dismissed. I think we should listen to everybody's concerns. We should put Ørsted through careful scrutiny. And I'm not against wind power, but I think we need to recognize Ørsted they're an energy company. They used to do fossil fuels. They're not any saint, so we should not see it as a binary. We either love Ørsted or we're anti-environmentalist. I mean, it's much more complicated. And so I agree, Heather, that Ørsted is not necessarily, should be rubber stamped. So I think it's a good idea to bring a lot of views in and hear what everyone has to say.
It might be good to have a written questions in advance for some of these guests who might come and talk with us, things that you'd like to know about, so they come prepared.
But maybe we should even sponsor a public meeting with this Caesar Rodney group and the Ørsted and have Ørsted have to deal with people other than environmentally friendly folks,
Well, this is a public meeting right here. Anybody in the public is welcome to come.
I know, but Charlie, you know that it's not like having a major public meeting where you're inviting the Caesar Rodney people and Ørsted people.
If you want a major meeting on this, like hundreds of people coming with pitchforks and torches or something, I don't know that we want to sign up for that.
All right, I'm gonna, we started getting into more specifics there, but I think we've got the general idea on who we need to hear from and the types of questions we need to ask and getting some clarity and transparency from some. Any other comments on that? I would like to, we've got just 10 minutes left and Kevin Williams has joined us to give us an update on the next agenda topic, which we asked for, which is under new business, updates and discussion on the recycling program in public spaces in Rehoboth, mainly on the Boardwalk, which was delayed, I guess, 2 years now because of COVID. Kevin, are you with us?
Yeah, Commissioner, you hear me okay?
Great, yeah.
Yep.
Kevin, I'll let you give us an update and then we'll have the committee ask any questions if that's fine.
Sure, absolutely.
Great,
So
thanks.
we fully intend to start the recycling on the Boardwalk this weekend, or this summer, this summer. Again, with the the COVID caveat and employment caveat, the employee caveat. We have not been able to hire enough people to do what we really need to do without starting the new program. But we're geared up and ready to go. We've got the clear bags. We've got the cans all painted up and ready to go. The second electric vehicle for handling the recycle waste has arrived. So I think we're raring to go. All we just need to get really is the people come the summer season.
Kevin, great. I think we're all glad to hear that that's in the forecast to start
Right.
this season. Any specific questions for Kevin from the group?
How frequently should they be picking up recycling?
Oh, we would go to the Boardwalk probably at least once a day, until we get going and get a feel for how much we're seeing. So we'll kind of play that by ear right now.
And Kevin,
Kevin, will there? Go ahead, Edward.
No, go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to ask Kevin, will there be signage put up as to what is considered recyclable for the folks that are just coming in for a week or a weekend so that they know exactly what they can recycle?
Yeah, I think we have stickers on those cans because it is only bottles and cans, I think. And we've got the cutout lids where only those type things. So it won't do much for pizza boxes that people fold up and try to cram in through the can hole. But they're marked on there what it is we're able to take for the Boardwalk recycle.
Great.
I'm wondering about the employee situation. I just wonder what you're doing about getting the employees. There's a source that I know of, which is the Community Resource Center, which has an employment section.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess there might be some folks there who could be trained to do this. I mean, I don't know what your pay is per hour, if it's competitive. So I'm wondering why the problem. I mean, I know that there are problems getting people, but I mean, flaggers, they're training some of the folks at Community Resource to be flaggers with the highway department. And wondering what kind of things are you doing to get employees to do this?
So we advertise in many various organizations, through many various organizations. The press, we advertise in the local paper, we advertise on Indeed. It's just tough to find and get people. We're willing to work with anybody we think can do it. Now these jobs are, basically riding on the back of a trash truck 5 to 7 days a week, in 95 to 100 degree temperature. So
yeah, could you tell me, I know this person personally at Community Resource, could you tell me who they would get in touch with?
Please have them contact me. I'll be happy to talk to them about,
okay,
what might be available for us. We'll tap in every resource we can.
Okay, would you tell me again, please?
Say again?
What is your name again? I'm sorry.
Kevin Williams, and I'm the Director of Public Works. So
Williams. Okay.
Nettie, I'll send you his.
all my
info.
stuff's online.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Mhm. Yeah, but that would be helpful. We'll take leads from anybody we can get.
Okay, super.
How young can people be to be employed? I mean, like high school kids, would they be eligible?
We have in the past.
Heather, you've got some kids, right?
Is there any chance that any, obviously not the whole role, but any of those roles could be filled by volunteers?
I wouldn't look to that direction, but we never turn volunteer help away, but depending upon the volunteers and do they come with some supervision or not, that kind of thing, that gets troublesome for us. And then if volunteer gets hurt doing basic city functions, that becomes an issue for us. So we don't like to do that, but maybe for a special occasion or something we could.
Kevin, have there been any thoughts about, I realize the job market is tough getting everybody to get out and work, but I know at my work, we contract out services to do that, similar to like KSI and Milford, that would, you would hire to do, maybe the truck would be backed up at the main circle, and then you would have these workers bringing them in. But have we looked at that or thought about that?
Again, we'll take any resource available to us. If somebody's got a workforce that we could tap, we'll be happy to try to tap them. We had to go last year for our bulk pickup. You may recall, we actually had to contract that. We found a landscaper that had guys that, it wasn't a busy landscape time of year, so he had some guys that needed some work. So we were able to do some of that. But
yeah, sometimes that's a reduction cost, right? So you don't have all the benefits and all that good stuff, and you just pay them to do the job.
If they're full-time for that guy, they're also getting benefits or something from that guy. So it did not prove to be too cost-effective for us, but we really didn't have a way to do it with the in-house.
Yeah, and I just think it's so important that this happened before the summer season, when everybody is employed. And, the fact that we have all these things already, I think when the snow melts, we really need to have this happen.
Sure.
So, yeah.
And we've started doing that. Obviously, we're in the budget process now, so we'll hopefully know soon what the projected pay scale would be for our seasonals and part-times, so we can get the advertisements out and the like. But I mean, in all honesty, it's never really been easy for the streets department to fill all their part-time positions. I mean, that's just tough work. I mean, and we're paying, and we pay okay. It's not a great wage to literally ride on the back of that trash truck 5 to 7 days a week at 95-degree temperature, and everybody screaming at you and hollering at you. So it's tough to fill those every year. We haven't been able to fill them the last two years.
Kevin, how do we, this will be the first year that we're actually implementing this. How do we gauge whether it's working or not? Are we going to be testing the contamination levels? How do you actually see if it's working and if the program's successful?
Yeah, I don't know that we have a metric for what deems success. I think there are some school of thought that anything that you don't end up putting in a regular landfill and disposing of is going to be success. We didn't really put a dollar figure to say, okay, well, it's saving us X amount of dollars that we don't have to send to the tipping station, that we now get to the recycle. I think at least initially we'll probably just look at it anecdotally and say, yeah, we're getting a lot of contamination, or we're not, or it seems to be working out just fine. We've got to work through it at least 1 year to kind of get the details of the process, because right now we're planning to take it back, cut the bags, make sure there's no contamination brought in. So pretty much everything we're going to take, we think, is going to be fairly clean. But it is a manual process to do that. So we'll gauge it as we go. I think we're committed to doing it. So we're going to do it, and then we'll assess whether or not figure out what success really is, and then see if it is successful. But I think it just philosophically, that's something we want to do as a city to do it.
Right.
No,
All right, Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Hey, could I offer just one other thing, Commissioner? Because I know we had talked about this at a meeting some time ago, but there was a request to try to see about putting water bottle refill stations on the boardwalk, or maybe at a restroom facility or something. So we've been working with, there's an opportunity for us. We were contacted by a lady earlier, a couple weeks ago anyway, about our willingness to put one out. So they've got some grant money that they're working. We have to do a letter of support, which Evan's going to put together and get the board hopefully to sign saying that we're supportive. We're hoping to get one or two of those. And initially our thought is, you target one, at least one, maybe two if we get to along the boardwalk somewhere at one of the rest areas or one of the restroom areas. We've got water and everything there. So it'd be just kind of a replace an existing water fountain with a water fountain / refillable water station, water bottle filler there. So that was good news. We got that yesterday. She does not think the grant will be approved in time for this summer, but looks like next fall we'll have, if all things go well, we might have two of those somewhere on the boardwalk for the following summer.
Okay, excellent. That's great news. Thank you, Kevin.
Sure.
That's one way of cutting out the straws.
Charlie will help us remember.
All right, Kevin, thank you. Next, well, we are just out of time, which is unfortunate. Brant, Max, how strict are we on the timeline?
You can continue if you'd like. It doesn't look like you've got much left to discuss.
Yeah, no, just I want us to at least have an initial discussion on the design manual for the wireless technology.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, we'll just continue a little bit longer. So has everyone had a chance to take a look at that? I know, I absolutely know Heather has. So why don't we open it up for discussion, and I'm going to see if I can actually pull that up. Heather, do you want to start off with some comments while I try to pull the design manual up?
Sure. I just want to commend everybody that worked on that to get it where it is now. I think we've come a long way. I particularly support, and I hope it stays in there. I know we're just in the draft form right now, I think. But I hope there's one line item in there that talks about proximity to residential homes, and I hope that part stays in there. I think that's really important, as I've said before. I think it's also really important for us to get a grasp on what's going on the boardwalk, and I haven't really heard back yet, and I kind of feel like the clock is ticking, and I hope we can get the design manual approved before the providers come back to us. So maybe, Commissioner, you can tell us where that is.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't read it, I really encourage you to read it, because I think it just shows how much progress has been made, and I really applaud the effort.
Can someone send around a copy of the design manual again for those of us who may have overlooked it?
Sure, I'll send that out. To answer your question, we've not really heard back from any of at least from the last meeting I was in. We've not really heard back from the wireless companies. But we are anxious to get this design manual approved. Heather, do you think, are there specifics in the manual that you think we need to have discussion or look out specifics, or you think it's in pretty good shape as it stands?
To me, the only thing that was still a little bit fuzzy was what's going on the boardwalk. It didn't seem like there was any definitive direction for the providers of what's allowed and what's not allowed. And considering that our CDP supports it, the fact that we have that our aesthetic concerns and Rehoboth should be considered, I think we have good standing to make a specific requirements for what happens on the boardwalk, and I think we should take advantage of that. Again, I'm concerned that the clock is ticking, and if we don't get this enacted and the providers come in, they don't have to abide by whatever design standard tomorrow if they have request it today. You know, I think we get 60 days or whatever to approve their thing. The clock is always ticking. So I just would encourage the city to maybe be more specific on what's going on the boardwalk and get something approved. It can always be updated, and it probably should be a working document as things change. You know, again, aesthetics are huge, and the more specific the city can be about what's acceptable, the better. There are a couple of requirements in there that I think are not being enforced right now. Number one is exposed wires. I see them on all of the small cells that were deployed in the last 2 years. We're seeing exposed wires. We're seeing, I think, heights that are probably taller than what's allowed. We're seeing close proximity to residential areas. We're seeing things installed in our seascape, which we know is a big issue in Dewey Beach. So the sooner we get these in place, the better off everybody will be.
Okay. I'm going to get some, this is good. That's been very helpful. I'm going to get some updates from building and licensing on what's currently being enforced or not enforced with those items you just mentioned, and from our consultant some clarification on the boardwalk. And I think that will help with our next discussion. Any other comments? In the meantime, I will send you that document out so you've got a fresh copy. I think it was recently updated by the consultant not too long ago.
We were talking at one point, and I know this doesn't have to do, Heather, with the whole plan, but I thought it was already instituted as far as all the rules. But we were asking for the dark sky, the new lights, and I had thought that we had missed that opportunity. Maybe we haven't missed that opportunity. I really feel with all the profit that these wireless folks will be getting, that they should give us lights for the entire boardwalk. And that should be a requirement. I mean, I just think, I think that's an opportunity for us. I think they're going to make money hand over fist, and they should do that.
If I could, I think the last iteration was we don't want them included on the east side of the boardwalk in those light fixtures, that they should be on the west side of the boardwalk. So it's not to obstruct the view, is the last that I recall. But we'll get some clarification on that. We have a workshop meeting on Monday. It is part of the agenda, so I think we'll have some updates on Monday. And I'd encourage all of you to join if you can. But I'll get some of that information and send you all the latest copy of it.
One of the other things that was a comment that was made by Michael Strange that I would love to see you guys discuss on Monday and maybe incorporate into the design manual is that we should be asking for, I forget what the term he uses, but we should be asking for the newest and latest technology. We should be asking for aesthetically for the best product that they can provide, not the tin can with the wires hanging out on the old pole. You know, our city is an aesthetic attraction for a lot of people, and we need to maintain that standard. And I'm not sure that that language was incorporated in the design manual, and that would be a really beneficial thing to add.
Yep. Best available technology in economically achievable.
And aesthetic
is very much part of the inclusion of the document and our discussion on Monday.
Mm-hmm. Great. Good news.
All right. With that, well, I know we're running a little over, so that gives us a good path forward. We've got a lot of sort of open items, but is there any other discussion on things to include on any of our future agendas? Charlie, I see you moving your lips, but not hearing anything.
Wastewater, Mary Peck and others, I think, are concerned about.
You
that.
absolutely wastewater. That's
Is that something the city is going to be bringing up on its own, or?
So we are currently forming a task force for wastewater. That application is out there on the city website. I will send it to all of you in case you haven't received it already. But I would love for someone on this group to apply for that committee or task force.
And is when you say wastewater, is that the stormwater group that's?
Oh, I'm sorry. I am referring to stormwater. Charlie, are you specifically talking about wastewater?
Yeah, the ocean outfall and whether
Yep.
or not the county and the city should split or share the
Yep.
capacity of the ocean outfall.
Yep. So let me first let me finish that stormwater. So we are starting a stormwater task force. I think the deadline is next week. Maybe it's Monday or Tuesday. And my hope was that someone from this committee would apply to be on that, so that there was some environmental perspective on that committee. So if anyone is interested in that, if you could just email me separately, I would like to ensure that at least someone from this group applies to that, and there is that perspective on that committee. Let me give a quick update on, I did put it on the agenda, I apologize, I skipped over it. The Sussex County wastewater outfall proposal. I think Mary and others have asked for this committee to talk about it. So I just want to update. I think there's a lot of factors out there, and I think there may be some showstoppers where it may not even move forward if the county is not willing to agree to certain things. So I didn't want us to waste time talking about the environmental impacts of it if it's not going to move forward. I'd like. My apologies. I'd like for the mayor and commissioners to come up with those aspects that are the project's either going to move forward or not, and then we can discuss specifics with the environmental issues that if it does move forward may have an impact. So if I just wanted to update you all on that and make sure that makes sense to this committee.
Ed, what is publicly available in terms of what the county is asking for, in terms of the negotiations and the agreement? Are there any written materials that are publicly available to review?
Unless something has been drafted for our next agenda, we don't have anything in writing. It was a verbal proposal, and all of that has been, printed in the newspaper and discussed at several meetings, but nothing specific in writing.
Okay.
It was pretty general to gauge if the city was even going to entertain it to move forward. And I think we're still at that stage in the process. Okay, with that, any other, so I'll keep you guys updated on that. Any other items that we should bring up in the near future? We've got quite a bit, but anything else sort of pressing? Okay. With that, our next meeting is the first Friday at 10:30 in February, which is
The 4th.
the 4th. I am going to try to see if I can compile some of the wind farm stuff into a special meeting, if I can get approval to do that. I think it's important, and so I'm going to advocate on doing that. One other thing is we've lost 2 members of the group, which brings our committee down to
8.
8. So I would most likely like to add 1 person, so we
Have an odd number in case there's a tie vote or something, huh? Seldom do we have tie votes, but
yeah, yep. I would most likely want to add another person. So if you guys can think of another person that would be good and has some expertise that would be helpful to this committee, just let me know. And any committee comments before we adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
All right, thanks. Thank you, everyone. And we are adjourned at 11:46.
May the